Welcome to Second Take, the show that focuses on the issues behind the news. The largest operating furnace of its kind in the world was opened at Samancor Manganese's Metalloy smelter in Meyerton this week. Mining Weekly editor Martin Creamer tells us more. Welcome, Martin.
Thanks, Shannon.
Now, Samancor's new smelter will allow BHP Billiton to produce up to 30% or close to 30% of beneficiation for its manganese ore. Can you tell us more about that?
Now, this is incredible because, we always imagine that manganese is being mined and just railed out the country. Here, our biggest manganese producer is actually adding value to nearly 30% of what it mines. And it's again a surprise, because you feel as though things are down. People aren't investing. BHP Billiton didn't have good results. But the credit must go to the South African team here, who have been working flat out on trying to fulfill government policy and to show, look, we do take you seriously when you say you want to beneficiate, but we have to have a business case for us. And they have created the business case, and it's mainly through low-priced electricity. Now, we know that, these traditional industries were established when Eskom used to produce giveaway priced electricity, and that was an industrial strategy, and it was a strategy which spawned many industries. Now all of a sudden the reverse is true. The price is quite high, and it's going to go higher. So what do? You would normally say, well, we give up. But it's interesting that they've got their own power plant, and this power plant is fired up by cogeneration of the heat in the plant plus the carbon monoxide, which is a very noxious type of gas. You don't want it around, but they are using it and using it as a fuel to produce electricity, and producing electricity at the amazing low level, I'm told, of 1 cent a kilowatt hour. I mean, this just makes them a low-cost producer. They are the lowest cost producer of ferromanganese in South Africa. We hear a lot about ferrochrome. We don't often hear about ferromanganese. This shows you that it can happen, and it's happening inland. Of course, their next big challenge, I'm sure, is transporting it down to the deep level port. But they seem to have all that in hand, and Transnet seems to be doing better these days. So all in all, you get a traditional industry putting in a R1 billion expansion when you least expect it, and this can only come from these big giants. You've got to have these big companies in your country, because the sort of investment that we say R1 billion, sizable, that is nothing to these guys. They're huge. Even upliftment of the area they see as their duty. You go in there, the place is manicured. I mean, the lawns are well cut, and the housekeeping is superb, and that always is an indication that management is good, and then you notice that their safety is also very good because of that.
Now, government's new beneficiation strategy is aligned to the National Industrialization Program.
Yeah.
Can you elaborate on that?
See, they want to link the treasure we have here of good metals and minerals, the best endowment in the world, according to Citibank, worth $2.5 trillion. Government is saying, look, can't we do more with that? That's what they're always asking. And most of the responses are, no, we can't. But if you take an extra step like this, you suddenly realize, hey, you can do something with these metals. You can add the value. Unfortunately, most of this goes into steel manufacture, so you'd like to have a vibrant steel industry that you could feed this into. Unfortunately, ArcelorMittal down the road in Vanderbijl Park, we were in Meyerton with this, curtailing its operations, which I think has disturbed the people of the area. They're saying, what are we going to do about this curtailment? We're very happy that Meyerton is going ahead with another furnace, one of the biggest in the world, and hasn't happened for so long, but what about down the road? Our steel making is not doing too well. So there are pluses and there are minuses, but at least you have a plus. And perhaps, things will turn around in time where Vanderbijl Park's ArcelorMittal plant can also do something special. But South Africans are going to have to be looking out all the time for opportunities where they can get more out of their metals and minerals. And the state and the cabinet are right behind this. And they are saying, look, let's create industry out of this. And this is an example of how industry can be created, downstream industry, which supports the mining activity and which can also support value additions and services to a next step industry.
How long did it take them to build the smelter?
Well, it was a 16-month operation, but they stood up there, and we must give credit to the president of the BHP Billiton's Manganese in South Africa, Ravi Moodley. He says this is really 6 years in the making. So that is typical of these big companies. They do a lot of work behind the scenes. And also, the head of BHP Billiton in South Africa, Dr. Kulani Makhonazi, and also to the global manganese head who is based in South Africa, Tom Skitter, who had to find the money from the group, But it's all come together, and I think it has pleased the minerals minister, Susan Shabangu. She was there saying, look, you are really doing the right thing by beneficiating our manganese. We've got a lot of high-quality manganese, 80% of the world's, but people are all saying we're not using it to best advantage. This is an example of using it to best advantage. So they're getting a lot of kudos for what is really, in their terms, quite a moderate investment. But it comes back to the South Africans doing their homework well and persuading this global company that they should do something like this. Whereas I'm sure the global company's got many other things on its plate. So, your local team has to be conscientious about doing proper due diligence, and then you get the results.
And if you think it only took 16 months, it's not that long for a project of this size, and there was no safety issues.
Their safety is exceptionally good there, and typical of a big giant. They want zero harm, and they're able to achieve it. They achieved a zero injury rate over a period there, and if you take their average, it's negligible, and they haven't had a death in 15 years. So that is the way to do things. And the area, I can see it helps that area, so it's important.
Now, you briefly touched on the burden that is placed on Eskom
Yeah.
in the smelter like this. What are they doing?
See, normally you'd say Eskom is hard-pressed at the moment. It hasn't got great supplies, and if you do want that supply of electricity, you're now paying a higher and higher amount. And over the next 5 years, it is 8% every year, but that still mounts up. And thankfully not the 16% every year. So you've got to take that as a good income of power into your plant. But then you sweeten it by producing 20% of what you need yourself. And in doing it in an ultra low-cost way, you provide a business case for this local value addition, downstream activity and downstream job creation. So it all fits together.
Now, you also said that they uplift the community. What are they doing in that regard?
Well, I think that one of the things that they have done, and I think the minister remarked on it, and it's outside of direct community involvement. She said she used to live in this area, and she can remember there was a lot of air pollution at the time. And they have cleaned up their act as far as the environment is concerned, and they've lowered their carbon footprint, which is also important. If there's going to be carbon taxes coming up, you want to make sure that you don't have to pay too much of that. So it's a business case in reducing it by 8.3%. But then they go directly into the communities, and skills are needed. So they fund artisan training. They go around, recruit people from the local schools and put them through artisan training, which is fantastic. A big company like that needs to make sure that it does do something for the community, and we see it happening there. Also with the computer literacy, they've got special outreaches for that, even on social issues like looking after AIDS orphans. They're also active with that in the area, and to try and combat crime in the nearest area to them, they have put up high mast lighting. So it's a nice outreach to the community.
Well, thank you so much, Martin.
It's a great pleasure, Shannon.
That's the show for today. Join us again next time for more news and insight into what's happening in the mining world.